My Pat Tillman picture.
I do.
Oh, that's great. So welcome, everybody. I am very excited to be here tonight. Thank you for joining us for our third candidate forum in the 2022 election cycle. Secular AZ is a 501c3 organization focused on protecting the Constitution and the separation of church and state for over a decade now. I am very excited, as I said, to be hosting our third in a series of candidate forums for school board candidates in Arizona. So for those of you who are watching, who really want to have your school board candidates highlighted, please, by all means, send us a message at info@secularaz.org, and we will be happy to start the process of getting those folks in here. I know that sometimes I can be a little bit Maricopa County centric, and we want to get everybody in. So if you're in Prescott, if you're in Flagstaff, if you're in Tucson, Sierra Vista, go ahead and send those recommendations. We decided to begin hosting this type of event because our members care about the growing threat of white Christian nationalism in our state and country. And we're seeing how this political ideology is threatening our local school boards. And our local school boards really are the heart of our democracy. I know that we have a lot of newcomers here, and if our mission is something that you care deeply about, we ask you to consider becoming a member of our organization, perhaps even becoming a monthly donor or volunteering for our various events throughout the state. Or better yet, you could do all three. We can also guide you in the Request to Speak app, the RTS app, to engage with your elected officials at the Arizona legislature when you sign up for our action alerts. So make sure that you go to secularaz.org and sign up for all the things that we have to offer. I'll talk a little bit later about some of the upcoming events that we have scheduled. Tonight, we're going to be speaking with candidates for the Scottsdale Unified School Board. According to public records, there are 9 candidates running for 2 seats in Scottsdale. I don't know if some of those candidates may have decided not to run, but I want to at least acknowledge the other 5 candidates that are running in SUSD. There were 2 candidates, Amy Carney and Corrine Werner, who declined because they had other commitments. We did not receive responses from Michelle Randall, Nicholas Horsch, or Jonathan Bake, or Backy. I hope I'm saying his name right. But that's fine, because that leaves us with 4 fantastic candidates who will be joining our forum tonight. Mary Gaudio, Andrea Keck, Sarah Solom, and Rob Valls are joining us tonight. And in a moment, I will let them introduce themselves. But first, I want to explain the format. We'll go ahead and go in alphabetical order for the intros, and candidates will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves. Lindsay will let us know when their time is up, and then we'll move on to questions where the next candidate in alphabetical order will have 2 minutes to answer, and the other candidates will also be able to answer. We'll repeat this format, and around 7 o'clock, we'll ask audience questions. So please write your questions in the Q&A. So without any further ado, I am going to go ahead and turn it over to our first candidate, Mary Gaudio. Go ahead, Mary.
Thank you, Jeannie, and thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. My name is Mary Gaudio. I am a Phoenix native and current resident of Paradise Valley. I graduated from Alhambra High School in 1984 and received a full tuition scholarship to Arizona State as an Arizona Board of Regents scholar. I earned a bachelor's degree in advertising and worked in the Phoenix advertising market for 10 years in both creative and account service roles. I've been married to my husband, Joe, for 30 years. We're the proud parents of Alex. He's 28 and a lawyer living in Austin, Texas, and Maggie, who's 26 and an architectural designer. And we're proud that she just recently moved back to Arizona and is now able to vote for me. So that's really exciting. My children attended public schools, grades K through 12, in both the Plano and Allen independent school districts in North Texas. And over the course of those 15 years living in Texas, I volunteered in the classroom, served as PTA president, booster club president, and worked as a K-8 through, K-8 substitute teacher. So I know what it's like to be in the classroom as a volunteer and even at the head of a classroom. And it's You know, it is a challenging career. I feel for teachers, especially after these last few years. And I am a strong public school advocate. And so I hope that you will consider me as a candidate for this Scottsdale School Board. I really hope to serve my community and give back to my community because public schools are what lifted me from poverty. And I believe every student has, we owe it to every student to provide an equal access to education, no matter their zip code, with a quality, experienced teacher at the head of every classroom.
Well, thank you so much, Mary, for that introduction. And we are going alphabetically. Now, Andrea, give me maybe a thumbs up. Let me know that you're good to go. Great.
Good to go.
Okay.
I
Next
apologize for the glare on my glasses. I can't figure out how to get rid of that, but
don't feel bad. I think
and I
have
can't
the same
function
issue.
without them. So
All
anyway,
right.
I also would like to say thank you for including me this evening. I'm looking forward to our discussion. I was born and raised in Northern Kentucky, and both of my parents were teachers. So obviously I'm an advocate for teachers. I attended the Indiana University School of Business, and I have an MBA from the University of Chicago. Initially, I was a banker. Then I became the director of marketing for the firm that makes the telestrator. If you watch football on TV, I joined them before their initial public offering. But the bulk of my career was spent as a brand manager for both Kraft Foods and the NutraSweet company. So I ran 100, 200, $300 million businesses, including Parquet Margarine, Lender's Bagels, Celestial Seasonings Tea. So I certainly have the skills to run a large, complex enterprise. And I would say, I think we desperately need someone on the governing board who has large scale management expertise. But I also have the other side of the coin, which is I've spent 30 some years in the educational sector in substantive ways. I did all the usual volunteer, PTA, booster club kind of stuff. But fundamentally, I always came back to applying my business skills. So ultimately, I founded my own educational business about 12 years ago. And in that role, I have written curriculum for, taught, and provided personal coaching services for over 1,000 students here in the Phoenix area. I have both gifted and special ed experience. We were blessed that our son is a gifted young man. I have a granddaughter with autism. I spent 8 years working at the Pappas schools in Central Phoenix, whose entire enrollment consisted of homeless children. I was on the board of Boys Hope, Girls Hope of Arizona for 7 years. I've kind of a specialist in bringing community partnerships to schools to support schools. And I will say I have mentored more at-risk Hispanic and African-American students than I can possibly count. I've lived in Scottsdale for 25 years, married for 38 years, married a man who has 2 children. So I have been a parent for 38 years and a grandparent for 24 years. So I think I'm uniquely qualified for this position, having both the business and the education experience.
Well, thank you so much for that, Andrea. And that will take us to the next alphabet letter, and that is Sarah Solom. Thank you. Welcome, Sarah. Go ahead and give the people an introduction.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for having us this evening to talk to you all. I am Sarah Solem, and I'm excited to be running for Scottsdale Unified School District's governing board. I attended public school in the Midwest before I moved to Arizona in 2002. I obtained my bachelor's in print journalism and master's in higher and post-secondary education from Arizona State University. After that, I went ahead and I worked for ASU and U of A in both student and academic affairs for about a decade. This gives me a unique perspective with valuable experience with student success, education initiatives, working with administrators, staff, and some really great opportunities that I had to really build and understand what public education is in those realms. It was really rewarding and fulfilling, and it was a great career, and I'm glad to bring that experience to this board. I am also a mom of 3 SUSD students, ranging from incoming pre-K to 4th grade as of the fall of 2022, so this year. They're actually 3rd generation SUSD students. My husband is a Scottsdale native and a Chaparral grad, and his parents are graduates of Saguaro and Scottsdale High. So SUSD has been in the family for many years, and Scottsdale and SUSD are very special to us. I value the Scottsdale community, and I've given back in a variety of ways. I am a graduate of Scottsdale Leadership, class 36, and that gives back to the community and learning and engaging about Scottsdale and various leaders of the city. I've developed many skills with relationship building, and that will allow me to jump right into this role that requires important collaborations with various stakeholders seamlessly. So I've also just been a volunteer within SUSD and my children's school. I was selected to serve on the SUSD strategic design team, which helped build the mission, vision, and values for our district. I've also been involved in the PTO, Scottsdale Parent Council, and served on additional district committees to make sure that I'm continuously involved and know what's going on. I really, truly do have a profound commitment to seeing all students excel and succeed in SUSD and beyond. I have 13 more years in this district with my children. So public education and the opportunities for students in Scottsdale is very, very important to me. Scottsdale is a wonderful place to live, and it's desirable for all of those who live here. And I want our public schools to be just as desirable to attend for our families here. If you go to my website, solemforsusd.com, my logo is the sun. So you can remember that my last name is pronounced Solem, just like the sun, for a brighter SUSD. Thank you.
All right. I actually paid attention to the timer that time. So great. Next, we have Rob Valls. His name is not Values. It messes with me every time I see it. So Rob Valls, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Jeannie. Hello, everyone. I am Rob Valls, and I was born and raised in the Valley, attending Scottsdale District Schools of Hopi, Ingleside, and I graduated from Arcadia High School. I earned a bachelor's degree from Northern Arizona University, and I completed my graduate work at the University of Texas, both in advertising. I've had over 30 years in operations, sales, and marketing experience within the healthcare, advertising, and software industries, with the last 19 years in radiology. I'm currently a senior vice president of sales and marketing with a Phoenix-based national telemedicine practice. I also serve as the board secretary of the Arizona Center for Disability Law and have previously served on the Minnesota and Arizona state boards of the March of Dimes. I live in Scottsdale with my wife, Renee, and my son, Andy, who is a student currently in the Scottsdale district. I currently serve on the Desert Mountain High School Site Committee, as well as committees for the Scottsdale Parent Council. Between 2016 and 2018, I was a substitute teacher in the Scottsdale district after my son's special education teacher asked for help covering his classroom when he was off. I knew the students, I understood the need for the support from the teacher and the classroom support staff, so I stepped up, got licensed, and became a substitute teacher in the district. For the next 2 years, as my consulting schedule allowed, I would work for most of the schools in the district, especially enjoying helping special education programs. Finally, I'm a Save Our Schools Public School Proud candidate, which means I'm running to defend and improve public schools in Scottsdale as well around the country. You can find more about my campaign by visiting my website at valsforsusd.com. I thank Secular Arizona for inviting me here tonight, and I look forward to our discussion.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for those great introductions. Without any further ado, let's just get right into it. So the first question that I have, and this one is going to go to now Andrea. What is the biggest challenge facing your district, and how do you plan to address it? So I'll say it again. What's the biggest challenge facing your district, and how do you plan to address it?
Well, the first and foremost challenge, which actually has risen to the top in the last couple of weeks, is student safety. We had at Arcadia High School about 2 weeks ago, a young man who was able to bring a gun in his backpack into the school, which is just unacceptable. So I have a call in to the director of security for the district. So I'm not really up to speed on being able to give an answer at this stage of the game. But first and foremost, as a governing board member, above anything else, our responsibility is to keep our students safe. Second to that, my primary priority from the very beginning has always been academics. Prior to COVID, we had in our 5 high schools, only 46% of our students at grade level in English, math, and science. We had only 43% of the students who took the ACT exam meet the college readiness benchmark. So those results, in my opinion, are just, again, unacceptable for a city like Scottsdale. How do we address that? First and foremost, the main responsibility of the board is to make sure we have the most competent superintendent. Secondly, we need to set aggressive, specific, measurable academic targets to be met and hold people accountable for meeting those targets.
That was amazing, because I was just putting my hands up for 10 seconds and you were already done. So fantastic. Thank you, Andrea. All right, let's then take it to Sarah. Sarah, same question for you. What do you think the biggest issue is that the district is facing, and how do you plan to address it?
Thank you for that. So I think that the first thing that you have to do with a community is make sure that you have trust. Trust is actually earned and not just given. And right now, I think our community is feeling that we're a little divided, and we need to make sure that we rebuild a culture and community of trust and support. We may not always agree on how to get to an outcome, but if we know what our goals are, then we should be able to come together and work together. But that means that our community also needs to be heard and be able to have an opportunity to have those kind of conversations, not only with the board, but also within our school administration, our district administrators, and even with our teachers. So I think that building a culture of trust and support is going to be vital to any other goal that we set. Obviously, we are a public education system, and we need to focus on academics and educational opportunities. So I think that as long as we can establish that our community is able to have tough conversations and be able to be heard, we can start to really accomplish and dive into things like, you know, our academics, our educational opportunities, our technology use, our enrollment issues, and being good stewards of public funds. But we have to have a good foundation in order to be able to do that. And what I bring to the table is the ability to really work with people of different perspectives and backgrounds and take action and get things accomplished.
Thank you so much, Andrea. And that will bring us to Rob. Same question for you. Biggest issue, and how do you plan to address it?
So much of the issues facing Scottsdale schools, or any school in the state, is fighting those who wish to destroy public education. Our governor and the majority party are doing everything they can to cut funding and privatize public education while favoring charter schools with more money and fewer regulations. At all levels of state and local government, people need to stand up to these interests and fight for the survival of public schools. You can argue test scores and graduation rates all you want. Academics is very important to me. But when you have people actively defunding and destroying our schools, you need to stand up for the survival of public education. I support the continuation of the SUSD override, increasing school district funding at the state level, and I want to work on teacher retention, raising teacher pay, as well as improving the special education services of our district.
Great. Thank you so much, Rob. And I see we're already getting some questions in the Q&A. We're going to save that for a little bit later. So feel free to put those questions in there and we'll get to them in just a little while. But for now, we're going to go back to Mary. So Mary, same question for you. Biggest issue and how would you go about dealing with it?
I echo some of what Rob just mentioned regarding the funding in Arizona for education is abysmal. There is not much we can do as board members in that front. I do advocate and continue to use the request to speak system. I have gone to the Capitol and advocated for more public school funding. But as a board member, here are the two biggest challenges I feel we're facing in the district. And number one is declining enrollment. There's only 13% of all homes in Scottsdale have more than 3 people in them. The majority of households are 1 to 2 person homes, and we are an aging community. Part of that is a lack of affordable housing in Scottsdale. Young families can't really afford to live here. So we have an aging population, we have a lack of affordable housing. And, personally, I just work to try to elect people candidates that will move our state forward and address these issues that we are facing as a community in Scottsdale, especially. Our school choice model has and continued expansion of vouchers against the wishes of Arizona voters are depleting student enrollment in our district schools, which means I need to employ as a board member my background in advertising and marketing to attract and position Scottsdale schools as the best alternative for our young families. We have so many opportunities. We have great teachers. And so, okay. And then teacher burnout is a major issue. We need to retain and attract new teachers. So those are my two.
I'm going to go ahead and call time. Thank you,
All right.
Mary. Okay, so, and I apologize. Someone in the chat here pointed out that I accidentally called Sarah Andrea, so I apologize for that, Sarah. I'm just glad there's only 4 of you because if everybody had come, it would be probably even messier. So thank you for correcting my mistake. All right, let's go to the next question. So what programming and policies do you hope to bring to the district? And so this one will go now to Sarah. Sarah, I'm going to get your name right this time. Go ahead. What programming and or policies do you hope to bring to the district?
Well, one thing that I would like to see happen with the district that I would work towards is we actually just had a Scottsdale auditor help with reviewing one of our rebuild contracts to really see where we were losing money as a district. So I think that is a great way to start being able to really see where our funds are going. So I would like to see that kind of measured oversight be done not only at contract levels, but also for internal controls, community building, reoccurring expenses, and really preparing our students for their futures. We need to ensure that we have some sort of system and process in place to review all of the things that we're doing at more of a detailed level to ensure that everything that we're putting our money towards actually has measured and desirable outcomes that we've established. We do need to be good stewards of our public funds. We have an over $400 million budget, and we need to ensure that we are utilizing all of our dollars appropriately to really make a difference in our community with our students and our staff and our families. So That does take policy, and it takes a lot of effort to ensure that that's happening. Something else that I would like to see happen that is going to take policy and oversight and procedure is going to be the technology use in education. Right now, we pride ourselves on having one-to-one devices, but that doesn't make learning better. It doesn't really, just having a device does not make a student's education better. We need to make sure that we're leveraging those devices and the technology that we have to actually enhance learning. And this is going to be everything, including evaluating the effectiveness of having online text rather than printed books, the integrity of computerized tests, effective use of screen time, and all of those things absolutely need to be evaluated. As far as policy, we need to ensure that all of our policies abide by, state, local, and federal laws. We need to make sure that we're allowing those policies to have our community and our district thrive, and not just put more red tape on things, but really making sure that they lend themselves to having a wonderful school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so that means next we've got Rob. Same question for you, policies and programming you'd like to bring.
I'm a special needs father. My son was born 1 pound 4 ounce and has been in special education from day one. And I want to improve the special education program, specifically what I would do in Scottsdale. We have already had some change in leadership in the special ed program in Scottsdale. I'd like to talk to them first, but what I've experienced as a parent that has gone through IEPs and dealing with, federal government IDEA, protection of my son under IDEA, and having my son's civil rights violated on more than one occasion by the district, I'm looking to hopefully educate teachers and administrators more on the protections of special education students given to them federally by the IDEA program. And I don't think throwing money, more money at this particular issue. I think it's an education and communication situation. We can better educate our teachers, staff members as to what their responsibilities are in protecting and educating children under IDEA. But at the same time, I think that education of staff members and teachers will also help the district save money and prevent lawsuits. And I think that ultimately is the most important thing. We want to avoid having to spend money paying out lawsuits for things that people have done wrong. So I think educating all of our staff on what their responsibilities are under IDEA would be my key point.
Great, thank you for that, Rob. That will take us to Mary. Same question for you, Mary, policies and programs that you'd like to bring to the district.
So much has been said about the standardized test scores and lack of proficiency with our students and in their education and core subjects. One of the things that I feel like is just been ignored is the fact that 10 of our campuses are Title I schools. And coming from as being a child of poverty myself, I understand that the needs of those populations that are in underserved communities, they're struggling with multiple, financial issues at home, possibly, just a variety of issues. And so my hope and my goal is to really bring attention to those gaps in achievement as a policy addressing the needs of those students, that we can help those students versus just complain that they are not not proficient. What is it that we're struggling with, what to do? So my first goal would be to get in and really understand how we are failing those student populations that are struggling and addressing their needs. So, and if it means providing additional tutoring, I know that we are trying that. We are really need community support, build on community partnerships to bring in tutors anything that can help these students, because if all of our students thrive, we all, survive and thrive as a district. So that's my number one priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. All right, Andrea, same question for you. What kind of policies and programming do you hope to bring to the district?
Well, my policies center around academic achievement. And I think the most important thing that we are missing there is setting specific, measurable, aggressive targets to be met. I was and have been the only candidate to speak to the board specifically about academic achievement, and the only candidate to suggest to the board that there be academic metrics in the superintendent's pay plan. I fully support what Mary says about different audiences. What's needed to do that at Desert Mountain High School is very different than what's needed to accomplish that at Coronado High School. And I know that because I spent 9 years working with homeless children. And at Pappas, we not only had school, but we had a food bank, a clothing bank, washing machines, a health clinic, play therapy, a host of services that we surrounded those children with. So again, as a marketing person, I look at it as different target audiences and what's needed by different segments. In terms of programs, one of the things I think we can do to strengthen the district is to reach out to the businesses in our communities and get our businesses more involved with the schools. We cannot pile any more responsibilities on a teacher. Right now, we're asking the teacher to teach, to be a social worker, to be a counselor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We could easily go to businesses in the community and say, would you like to sponsor this classroom? Or would you like to sponsor this school and bring in volunteers and money? And I have quite a bit of experience in successfully doing that.
Great. And I'm sorry, Lindsay, I apologize because I kind of lost track of the time. So I think that was probably my fault. I apologize for that. And I believe we did start with Sarah on this question. So that means that we are going to go to the next question. So I decided to add this question because of recent events, and given the recent events in Uvalde, Texas, what do you think needs to be done with regards to stopping school shootings, and what role can school board members play to keep kids and staff safe? And since Sarah went first the last time, that means that Rob, you're going to go ahead and go first this time. Take it away. The question was about school shootings and what do we need to do and what can you do as a school board member?
Well, as a school board member, we can make sure that our staff is trained. Unfortunately, active shooter drills are a reality now, and it's sad that we have to fortify our schools. We have to build our schools differently, and they're not necessarily welcoming places to parents and kids if we have to go that direction. I think kids deserve to be safe, and laying that particular responsibility on a school district, any school district, Scottsdale or otherwise, is unfortunate. This should come from higher up. To make our schools safer, we need to have strong gun laws. And we have, a preponderance of people in the United States agree with that one fact. It just needs to get done. It just needs to get done. Don't lay this on the feet of our school boards and of our schools. Get the job done at the federal level so that we can teach, so that we can have our students be kids. Get the job done.
Great, and way under time, so I appreciate you for that. Let's see, let's go. That means Mary, you're next. So what needs to be done and what can you do or what would you do as a school board member to keep kids and staff safe?
I definitely agree with Rob in that we need some sensible gun laws in this country. We can't leave it up to states. It has to come from the federal level, and that could be, background checks, a little mandatory kind of wait time between applying for a gun license and getting one, and keeping them out of the hands of violent persons with a violent history. Also, banning assault weapons, in my mind. We're never going to get rid of the guns that are in the country right now, but we can put in some sensible controls. But as a school board member, what I would double down on is that social emotional learning component in our schools. I know that that is now being somehow linked to CRT, but we need to teach empathy. We need to make sure that we fund school counselors, more school counselors. Arizona is one of the, we have the highest number of students to counselor ratios. We need to identify kids who are struggling. My personal experience, my kids rode on a school bus and lived down the street from the El Paso shooter. And I could tell you, as growing up and watching that child get on the school bus, he was struggling. And I cried and cried and cried when I found out that it was, of the Crucius family, and that it shouldn't be that way. These are our kids, our neighbors. We need to work together to help our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Andrea, same question to you. What needs to be done and what would you do with regards to school shootings?
Well, again, I have to look at it from the perspective, and only from the perspective of a governing board member. First, what I would certainly need to do, which I'm endeavoring to do, is to understand what we currently have in place and what we don't have in place. Certainly, we have some positive programs, because apparently these two young boys at Arcadia reported to the school resource officer that this young man had a gun in his backpack. So, those kinds of programs are important and were successful. But to me, the fact that he was actually able to walk into the school with a gun in his backpack is a huge problem. So I would probably first hire an expert threat assessment consulting company to come in and tell us what needs to be done to harden our schools. And the state has a $5 billion surplus. So it seems to me that we can legislate with the legislators to get the state to provide funding, and each school put forth a proposal to the state saying, here's what we need and here's how much it costs. It's sad, very sad to me that it's come to that in our country, but it unfortunately has. And the number one responsibility of a board member is to keep our students safe. So I would get expert advice on what's needed, and I would go to the state to help us fund that.
Great, thank you so much. That means that Sarah, you're next. Same question to you. What do you think needs to be done, and what can you do as a school board member?
Well, something that's started to be established actually is a wonderful working relationship with the Scottsdale Police Department. We have school resource officers at our learning communities, and they provide a variety of different things, everything from sometimes even teaching and educating in the classroom to deterrence of certain behaviors, and also support. And we do, of course, have some of our Scottsdale police support dogs that are part of our communities as well. So I would absolutely advocate to keep our school resource officers, and if staffing allowed from the Scottsdale Police Department, increase those officers to more of our schools, because they don't just provide an officer on campus, but they provide relationships. So they support students. They really understand what's happening in the community, not just on the school campus, but outside of the school campus as well. I am a graduate of the Scottsdale Citizens Police Academy. So I had the opportunity to go through their whole program and better understand how they serve our Scottsdale community. And it's fascinating what they do give to SUSD. Every Routinely, they provide walkthroughs to our campuses to see threat assessments. And I would definitely advocate for ensuring that that happens even more often, to identify any areas that we can ensure, student safety for our students, our staff, and our family. But having a good relationship with Scottsdale Police Department is actually an action that we can take even at our local level to ensure safety at our schools.
Thanks for that, Sarah. I'm going to go ahead and go to this next question because it was already kind of touched upon a little bit by, I believe, by Mary. So the question is, do you support programming that includes social emotional learning and diversity, equity, and inclusion for students and staff at Scottsdale Unified School District? And I do believe that Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, please, but I believe I started with Rob last time. So that means we're going to go back to the beginning and start with Mary. So I'll say the question again. Do you support programming that includes diversity, equity, and inclusion and social emotional learning for students and staff?
Yes, emphatically yes. I actually served on the leadership council of an organization that focuses on social emotional learning. It's called Playworks of Arizona. And coming from the background that I am in, I actually attended Isaac Middle School where you taught, Jeannie. And my 7th grade classmates jumped my 7th grade math teacher, broke his arm, set the room on fire while I was in it. That is a personal experience that will be forever embedded in my mind and my heart. And with Playworks of Arizona, they, the social emotional component, they teach kids how to, resolve conflicts. We definitely need that in our district. I hear again and again from parents that we have a bullying issue in our district. And no doubt in this period where we're so divided, the adults are so divided, we definitely need more systems in place to help us work together and respect, diversity, inclusion. Yes, everyone should be respected, especially and including our teachers. So
I'm losing track a little bit, but I think that was time. I'm not sure if that was Lindsay. So I apologize if I did cut you off, but I want to be mindful of everybody's time too. So that means we're going to be going to Andrea next. Do you support SEL and DEI programming?
Absolutely, 100%. I believe we need to educate the whole child, and that includes social emotional learning. It includes bullying, not bullying. It includes respect of other children, whether they're special ed children, whether they're, LGBTQ children, and the same with teachers and the same with staff. I mean, part of developing, young people who graduate into the next chapter of their life with the skills that they need to be successful is we want them to be good people and we want them to be good citizens. And unfortunately, because so many more of our children today come from single parent families, sometimes they don't get that at home. When I was a young girl, most of that came from the home, but we also lived in a time where most children lived with both parents. So I think that there's probably even a greater need for that today. And I 100% support that we need to be educating our young people to be good people, period.
Great, thank you, Andrea. That will take us to Sarah next. Same question to you. Do you support social emotional learning and diversity, equity, and inclusion for students and staff?
I absolutely support helping our students learn the values of, conflict resolution, accountability, respect, all the things that come with social and emotional behaviors at school. That learning and being able to interact with peers, interact with staff, and understand how to behave and interact in those situations is a huge part of, the social experience of school and developing those skills. So that is such an important, incredible part of being able to have, students and teachers at school. I also am very supportive of our school counselors and guidance counselors and also school resource officers to make sure that we're giving all of that support to our students, because they do need to have lots of different support in lots of different areas, whether it's academic or social or emotional needs. I also think that diversity is a given. We are all diverse. We come from different backgrounds and areas. So that's going to be a given. But what we do need to take into consideration is inclusion. That's imperative. And I think that the most important way to teach the values is to demonstrate them and be a good role model for inclusion and kindness and accountability and respect. And if we as adults, staff, administrators, and community can help model that for our students or for our young people, that's going to be the best way to teach all of those values and how to treat others.
Thank you, Sarah. That'll take us to Rob. Same question goes to you.
I support social emotional learning and the concept of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I plan to support all of our diverse populations in our schools, including LGBTQI students, in protecting them and protecting their rights nationally and locally, and protecting the GSA clubs. I believe that we are stronger when we are diverse, and we need to teach our children to get along with others in the world, and that starts in school. So I absolutely support both concepts 100%.
Thank you for that, Rob. Okay, so this next question then will go to Andrea. And, we are an organization that is fully focused on the protection of the Constitution and defending the separation of church and state. And so I know that our members are going to want to know, what role, if any, should religion play in our public schools? So Andrea, what role, if any, should religion play in our public schools?
Well, the state has put forth a number of statutes that speak to those issues. There are a few exceptions. For example, being able to say the Pledge of Allegiance, which does include the words "under God," the ability to talk about religion, but it's very specific in saying, if you talk about religion, it has to be in the context of a curriculum and teaching, about that. But for the most part, I do not believe that public schools should teach religion or be involved in religion. When those subjects come up, I think the proper answer from a teacher is that's a personal issue and you need to talk to your parents about it. But public school is not the place for religion. If you're strongly, if that's a strong value for you as a family, there are options, which are religious schools. But so I guess my short answer is I'm obviously obligated to follow the laws that are set forth in Arizona about some of those exceptions. They are very few and far between, but for the most part, the answer is no.
Great, thank you, Andrea. Same question goes to you, Sarah. What role should religion play in our public schools, if any?
Thank you. Yes, Andrea covered some of that with legally, but I think that it's wonderful that within our public schools, we can have students and staff with a variety of religions and religious beliefs, because there isn't one religion that's focused on within our schools. So keeping that separated, I think, allows really the diversity of the community to really all come together within the public schools. And if a family or student is seeking out specific religious experiences or education, there are many opportunities outside of the public school system that can be sought out to embrace those opportunities, and public schools can keep the focus on universal values that transcend religion, like integrity and hard work and kindness.
Sorry about that. I just lost track of my mouse for just a second. The same question will now go to Rob. Rob, same question. What role should religion play in our public schools?
None. The public school system needs to provide a quality education to all students free of religious influences. If parents are looking for religious education for their children, they should look to private religious schools or religion classes after school. That said, it is the responsibility of our schools to protect the freedoms of students to express their religion within the educational environment, as long as it does not infringe on the right of others. If someone wants to wear a religious garment, that should be supported by the district at all levels. It is not the purpose of public education to represent a particular belief, but it should defend the beliefs of all students.
Great, thank you, Rob. That will take us to Mary. Close us out with this question. What role, if any, should schools play or should religion play in public schools? Thank you.
I think we are all in agreement that, there is separation of church and state, that each child can and, does, belief in their own home, practice those beliefs. And every child should be respected, and every teacher as well. There should be no proselytizing at the head of a classroom. And I have a unique experience having my kids raised in Texas, where we were very much in the Bible Belt. And there were instances of, Alex, is the only child, his friends said at the lunch table, Alex is the only kid that doesn't go to church. And I've always shared with my children that, at any time we would go to any church, and I just didn't want to force religion on my child. But they were always welcome to go to other churches with their friends, and I welcome that. But in the classroom, that is different. That is not the place for education, for religious beliefs in education, because we are all diverse. We are all practice very different faiths, and maybe those that don't practice belief systems. So yes, there is definitely a separation of church and state for that very reason. And that's to, not get muddy in the water and respect everyone's different beliefs. So.
Thank you for that, Mary. Okay, so that means Andrea went the last time. That means this next question will go to Sarah. And then looking at the time, I think that we're going to be taking some questions that are coming from the audience. So if you do have a question, please put it in the Q&A. If you are on our Facebook, by all means, feel free to type it in there, and we'll try to keep an eye on that as well. So this next question is about the legislature. So this past legislative, as you all know, we have to follow the rules, the policies, and the laws that are passed down through the legislature. So this past legislative session, we saw a number of education and school-focused bills that became law, with many others that are currently waiting in the wings. So of these education bills, which bill gave you the most concern, and how will you handle its implementation as a board member? So the question is, which bill gave you the most concern, and how will you handle its implementation as a board member? Oh, and that's Sarah, sorry.
Yes, thank you. Yes, there have been a lot of education bills that have been put forth and on a wide variety of issues. I think that what the school board and a school board member can do is to pay attention to what issues are being brought forth, because those are the ones that the community is talking about. And so we need to know where our Scottsdale community stands on these issues and how that does affect our staff, our teachers, our families, and our students, and be able to pay attention there. So if the conversations are happening about an issue at the state level, then we in Scottsdale need to understand, what does that look like, for our own community? What we do need to realize is when bills are put forth at the state level, that actually includes not just our district, but many other districts that don't look like Scottsdale's. So what might be something that's passed in the state, or at least being looked at, or going to the appropriations committee, or whatever that may be, it may be beneficial to one district and maybe not for us, or vice versa. So we need to make sure that we're looking at what's being brought forward with a lens of, it's not just about our district, but what we do need to pay attention to is what issues are being discussed, how does that involve our community, and what conversations and with whom do we need to have brought in to really be able to have that good dialogue, to be able to figure out what our district can do, or where do we need to position teachers or staff or administrators to help manage those things. So these issues are difficult, and they're weighing on all of us, and how do we go forward from here? But we do have to stay focused on continuing to challenge our own district to be better and brighter and good stewards of our Scottsdale taxpayer dollars, and really truly support excellence everywhere.
Perfect. I was trying to be a much better timekeeper that time. So that means next we will go to Rob. Same question. Which bill came up that really caused you concern? And as a board member, how would you handle implementing that law?
I think there, as Sarah mentioned, there were a lot. There were a lot of bills that made it through the legislature that are concerning. And I think, there is a responsibility for a board member to implement state law, and I will respect that. But at the same time, I think we need to defend our district, and we need to defend public education. Much of the legislation came from the anti-public education majority party. Many of these attacks attack the freedoms of teachers to do their jobs. My own state senator demonized teachers on the Senate floor. They legislate against the fantasy that teachers are teaching CRT. They're not. No one in the Scottsdale district or any public school is teaching a complex set of tools to analyze the effects of society and economics that they have on race. What they call it, call it what it is. It's fear tactics to distract from the needs of a normal public education process. What they tag as CRT might be the processes of social emotional learning, what we talked about before. But even there, they're using fear and misinformation to get to the public and make them afraid of it. We want our children to function in society with compassion, morals, and ethics. People are actively opposing compassion. That's unconscionable. I will fight to make sure that teachers can teach. And that means I have to go in front of the legislature and try and get new legislation passed. That's what I will do.
Thank you, Rob. The same question now will go to Mary. So Mary, a bill that caused you concern, and how do you handle it as a board member?
Does it have to be one that is already passed? Because there is one.
No, because there are still some that are making their way through.
Yes.
There were even some that were introduced that didn't actually make it through. So you go ahead and choose.
The one that concerns me, I think currently, and I think it is about to come, it is being threatened to resurrect. It's SB 1412, and that's the law that could result in teachers losing their certification regarding teaching history or current events under the lens of race relations and placing no blame or judgments based on race. And that is a very, one of our state legislators, I think it was Michelle Udall, Representative Udall, who on the floor basically said that the grocery store shooting in Buffalo, a teacher would not really be permitted to mention that Blacks were targeted. That is outrageous. And I realize that if it does pass, we as a board, would have to uphold the law, but I'm hoping about, and do my part in advocating against such bills, because our students deserve to be taught accurate history, whether it's, the Holocaust, or current day events. These are our students. Imagine a Black child being told in the classroom that the Buffalo shooting was not racially motivated. That is just wrong. That is basically, discounting that, that segment of the population's pain and the racism that exists in our country. So thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Again, trying to be a better timekeeper. So that means that the final answer to this question will go to Andrea, and then we're going to open it up to audience questions. So same question to you, Andrea. What was the bill that really concerned you, and how would you implement that as a board member?
I think for me, to echo a little of what's been said already, it was a collection of bills. The ones that are attempting to legislate exactly what can and cannot be said in a classroom. I think that's an impossible task. I remember when I was in college, I can't remember the course, but the theme of the course was you can't legislate morality, okay? I certainly support parental rights. I certainly support transparency to a point, but I don't think it's possible, and some of these laws have attempted to do that. I don't think it's possible to try to specify every single thing that it's acceptable for a teacher or a staff member to say, and every single thing that it's not acceptable for them to say. That's an impossible task. I think what we have to do is we have to create a culture within the organization by which teachers are self-moderating, and they just know themselves, this is good for me to say, I can say this, and I probably shouldn't say that. So I think what bothers me in general are the attempts to specify, A, B, C, D, E, and F are fine, and G, H, I, J, and K are not fine, and if you say J, then you're fired. I think that's an impossibility. So I think it's more about creating the culture.
Very good. Thank you so much all for paying attention to the time. And I think that we're all getting a little bit better at this too, since this is now our third rodeo. So let's go ahead and take some of these questions that have come in from the audience. Now, there are some that are specific to members. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can say this. So this one goes specifically to Andrea. And this attendee of our program today says they don't think, and again, this is coming from the audience, they don't think that you have anything positive to say about SUSD. So why should we expect you to be a positive force for our students and staff? So this one's just for Andrea.
Okay. Well, there are lots of positive things that happen within the district. First of all, most importantly, we have fantastic youth. We have fantastic students. We have dedicated teachers. We have a huge variety of academic programs and extracurricular activities. So there are plenty of positive things. In fact, I started something on my Facebook page called Andrea's Accolades, and I'm trying to bring those forth as they occur. But the most important thing in my mind is academics. And this again comes from my business experience, which is in any business, 20% of the factors generate 80% of the results. And our primary objective, which in my mind is the absolute most positive thing we can do for our youth, is to properly prepare them so that when they're graduated from our system, they have the academic and life skills they need to be successful in their next chapter.
My apologies. I was just going and reading the next question. So thank you for that, Andrea. This one actually, it seems to me like two questions. So this one is actually specifically for Sarah, because it seems to go together with the next person's question. It says, you're supported by donors who have been vocal in supporting vouchers for private and charter schools. Do you support vouchers for private religious schools in Arizona? And I'm going to give you the other question that we received in the Q&A that seems to go along with this, I'm guessing. Can you, and again, this is from the audience, this isn't from us, so it's just for Sarah, Ms. Solem. Can you explain why you accepted $3,000 from Jim Lehman, who is proud to be against public education and is in favor of privatization of our schools? So the same question, are you in favor of voucher expansion? And then I'll save the next part of that question because it goes with another one. So do you support vouchers for private religious schools in Arizona? Go ahead, Ms. Solem.
Thank you. There are a lot of nuances to vouchers. For the voucher system that we do have, I have seen that be very successful for a number of students that have had very specific special needs that they found that a different educational opportunity was more appropriate for their specific needs. And I very much am glad that our state has an opportunity for them to find the best educational fit, especially if for whatever reason that could not be provided by our SUSD system. Really, it's about the students, and if they found that they had a specific need to go somewhere else, I'm glad that they're looking at their needs to be able to set themselves up for the future. Looking at anything from a specific voucher system that would go specifically to religious private schools, I have not seen anything put forward, from the state that would be specifically for that. I am glad that we have a system that allows for school choice. As you know, SUSD has also capitalized on the fact that we do offer school choice even within our district. We have lots of different programs, and we're able to open enroll in our district schools to find the best fit for your student. And so that's what I'm going to focus on. As for donations, I think that anybody that I have talked to or received donations from, they know that they can support me, and that's going to be from any political party. It's going to be from any background, because that's not really where I am aligned. This is a nonpartisan position, and I am community focused, I am SUSD focused, and I'm focused for desirable schools for our great city of Scottsdale.
Great, thank you for that. We have another specific, and I'd like to just comment that I approve of anybody having a dog in the background. I see your dog walking around and I already like it and I don't even know it. So let's go on. This one is actually specifically for Mary. It says, and this one comes from Rose, what can the school district do to offset the issue of declining enrollment in our schools and protect our SUSD schools? So this is kind of the flip side, right? Because we're talking about people leaving the schools with vouchers or maybe charter schools. So Mary, I love your dog, I'm sorry. What can the school district do to offset the issue of declining enrollment in our schools and protect our SUSD public schools?
I think innovative programming. I think we do a great job of that already. We have, as Sarah mentioned, specific campuses that focus on IB, on STEM fields, and that will generate interest in the community if we properly promote it. I know that we have a new individual who is in charge of promoting and our district, but I think we as community members and board members also bear responsibility for promoting our programs in the district, but also just bringing forth more learning opportunities, especially in the southern part of our district. I know that work is being done and advancing to bring more equity into our district, which I applaud, and I look forward to working with maybe the Coronado foundation and bring in more programs even. I do know that like there are only 5 CTE programs that are offered at Coronado, and possibly, whereas Chaparral, I think, has 11 different programs. We need to bring more equity down south and maybe bring in other, the students in the north are more apt to be able to travel to Coronado for more programs, whereas the reverse is not as likely. So that's what I would encourage, everyone to promote the district in your own neighborhood, and I would do that as a governing board member as well.
Thank you, Mary. Jose is in the audience, and he said, I want to be fair. He says that he would like that question about declining enrollment to go to all of the candidates. So I think that's fair. So since Mary went first this time, we're going to switch it up just a little bit. And Andrea, the same question goes to you. What would you do about declining enrollment?
Well, being an old marketing dog, the first thing I would do would be do some kind of survey of the parents who have left the district to understand why they have left. Did 10% of them leave over the COVID mask issue, or did 70% of them leave over the COVID mask issue? How many have left over, the academic situation? How many have left because they're looking for a religious outlet? I mean, the first thing you need to do is understand why we're losing enrollment. And then you work back from that to put into place policies and programs to improve the areas that have caused people to leave the district. So that's where I would start, is understanding, not hypothesizing, not taking my own personal point of view and saying, here's why I think people have left, but actually doing, targeted market research studies to understand exactly why people have left, and then address those issues head on internally.
Great, thanks. So that means Ms. Solom. Sarah, you're next. Same question goes to you.
Thank you. This is actually an area that I'm extremely passionate about. It's quite complex, and that's something that excites me. We have historically, over the last almost decade, been having declining enrollment of about 1.2% per year. It's about 200 students. The district does conduct sometimes some exit surveys that are sent to families once they leave the district. It doesn't always happen, and sometimes people don't fill them out. So it's a little hit or miss on that. During COVID, obviously, there were some differing replies, just online education wasn't working, to different mandates and policies. So that's something that's interesting and unique, but something to look at. So the declining enrollment, the declining enrollment has a lot of different factors. So obviously one is maybe school, what schools are offered, what school is their home school, but we're looking at a variety of things. And it does have to do with an aging population in Scottsdale wanting to stay in this desirable city. We're looking at lower birth rates for our community. We're looking at really non-family friendly housing that's been approved by the city. It's about 75% that's not family friendly. So we have some changes even within our community that are a little bit outside of SUSD's control. So how do we look at the future of enrollment? It's going to affect current and planned building sizes, restructuring classroom sizes, staffing needs, empty or crowded spaces. So this is so multi-issued and nuanced and complex. But I think that we can also look at this as an opportunity to be honest about enrollment and really come up with some long-term and short-term plans of how we're going to address it, because more and bigger district doesn't necessarily make us better. So let's make us a great school district that then has great offerings and really serve the students that we do have and focus on retention first.
Excellent. Thank you. And you never have to apologize about your dog making noise in the background. All right, let's go now to Rob. You're going to go ahead and close us out with this question.
Yeah, I probably have been pretty critical in the past about the marketing efforts of the district, and I've made those feelings known to the board. But we do parent surveys, and those two people that do respond, they respond that they are, most of them that are leaving the district are leaving because they're moving. Very few left because of academics. No one left because of masks. That's the data from those surveys. We know those facts. So we can take that information and we can, move on it and understand that, really, if we're going to focus on being old marketing dogs, like a few of us are, we can focus better on recruiting kids, for kindergarten, for pre-K programs in the district, and start them out early and get them into the district right away. I think that's really what I want to focus on, is making sure that the parents know that we are the option, we are the best option for their kids from day one for their education.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay. We have several questions in the chat, and there's quite a few. So we'll kind of gauge it and see where everybody is, because I do want to be mindful of time. Everybody's taking time out of their very busy schedules. But there's several questions in the chat that have to do with the override. One went to a specific candidate, but then somebody else came back and said, I want to know from everybody. And I kind of like this because it says, in a simple yay or nay, they want to know where to go. Please use this opportunity to state yay or nay in your support of the district additional assistance override. So I believe what this means, it would be a capital override, if I'm thinking correctly. I don't know if you have M&O and a capital override, or what's going on in your district, but I think this is a good question for capital, M&O, or bond overrides, because unfortunately throughout the years, it seems that the burden has been put onto the homeowners, right? The property owners. And it's unfortunate, but that's how a lot of school districts, fill in those gaps. So the question is, and let's limit this one to a minute if we can, Lindsay. And since Mary went first the last time, we'll start with Andrea. Do you support bonds and overrides?
Well, obviously, it depends on what the bond and the overrides are for. This current one, which is being proposed, I would like to revisit in the context of first understanding what we need to do for school safety. That's something that's just arisen in my thinking since the bond was approved by the board a month or two ago. And so I am busy going down that path of, as I said earlier, trying to understand what we have in place, what we need to have in place, how much that's going to cost, where we can get the funding from. And we do have another year before this particular override expires. So I would like to look at those in conjunction with each other.
Thank you so much. So same question, we'll go to Sarah this time, bonds and overrides.
Yes, I do support the idea of bonds and overrides and letting the community and voters decide where their money is going to go. What I would like to continue to evaluate regarding Scottsdale's override district, additional assistance, is with a few items. During the presentation from the district's chief financial officer, she recommended that our district not request or ask our community for anything more than $14 million. During the approval, that was a vote of 5-0, our district has decided to put forth an override request of $14.5 million. I do find it interesting that our chief financial officer really made some different recommendations than what the board has decided. And that's a big difference between the initial ask of her 13.5 million to now it ended up being $14.5 million. Additionally, there was a capital planning committee that really actually hasn't been fulfilled. So I'm still looking into that and need more answers to really fully understand the amount that was requested.
Right, that's time. Thank you so much,
Thanks.
Sarah. That will take it to Rob next. Same question goes to you, bonds and overrides.
Yes, I support them fully. And I've stated that in the past, and it's on my website. I'd also like to point out that the Scottsdale schools have spent over $20 million on upgrading facilities to ensure security as a single point of entry. So we've made that investment, and we will continue to look at that to protect our children. I think we need to spend money on those things, obviously, but again, it comes down to the gun laws. So I believe that we need to fund these. Education is an investment, not an expense. And for every dollar that we spend, we will get a return on investment of 6-8 times. So it's very important to understand that this is an investment in our community. It's an investment in our children. So yes, I support the capital override, the extension of this particular capital override. Absolutely.
Thank you, Rob. Mary, same question goes to you.
Not only yes, but heck yes. I am in full support. Anything that we can do. I know that money doesn't solve everything, but unfortunately in our state where we are underfunded by the state legislature, it is necessary for our students to have the equipment that is necessary for learning, and all that goes into this district additional override. And I do believe I thought it was always at 14.5, but I could be wrong on that. I'm looking at my photos from my, attending at that board meeting. But it's my understanding it goes towards, furnitures, fixtures, equipment, library, fine arts equipment, athletics. I do fully support these things. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. Okay, there's a comment in here and I appreciate it. It does say, please don't ask one candidate only. That smacks of someone specifically picking on one of them. We need to hear what they all have to say, so we start deciding who we will be voting for. However, there are some questions that do seem to be really specific, to specific candidates. But I'm going to go ahead and go to, because there's a couple of questions related to LGBTQ youth. So I want to go ahead and go to those questions at first. And one of the questions has to do with Title I schools. And I feel like some of that has actually been answered already, because it goes on to talk about CRT and teachers teaching accurate history. I do feel like that's been addressed, but there has been some mention in the chat about our LGBTQ students. So to everybody, what is your view of LGBTQ clubs at our schools? So I'm guessing that's probably like GSA, things like that. And I believe, oh boy, I think you might have to help me out this time. I think Sarah is going first. Am I right? Give me a thumbs up if I'm right, because I did a really terrible job of keeping track, but I do think that Andrea went last time. So Sarah, what is your view of allowing LGBTQ clubs at our schools?
Having LGBTQ clubs at our schools is something that should be embraced when they're student-led. That's something that they would like on their campus. We have a lot of really wonderful clubs that students drive the interest, saying this is something that I'm interested in, and I would like to have a club that we can, gather and have, student activities focused around. I think that is wonderful. I participated in several clubs and, in school, in middle school, in high school, and in college, and it really fulfills an experience for the student. And clubs like that should definitely be supported. If that's something that the students want and need, and they decide to set that up, it's 100% supported. And I think that, again, it goes back to making sure that we offer a wide variety of experiences for our students, and that's very much embraced.
Thank you, Sarah. Rob, same question goes to you.
I'm on the site committee for Desert Mountain High School, and the GSA club there was getting attacked by some parents from a particular organization trying to get the GSA club shut down. And it was sad, and it was fought back. And I applaud Dr. Hirsch for her efforts in protecting that club. Everyone has a right to be a member of a club, and GSA has just as much right to be on the campus, any campus in the Scottsdale district or any campus in the state. So I support LGBTQI kids. I see them, and I will have their back 100%. I will fight for them.
Thank you, Rob. Mary, same question goes to you.
I definitely echo the sentiments of Rob and Sarah. I believe that our students that identify as LGBTQIA are, we know that they are at risk of discrimination, of suicide, and they often do not have a safe place even at home to be themselves and to get support from. So yes, it's important if it is a club that is, needed at that school. If students feel the need to gather, I am in 100% support, even if, I understand Sarah said something like if they're student led, understanding that every school after school club does have an adult in the room. I think that it's necessary. And so I think a lot of it is that the adults, the teacher sponsor of that club can sometimes come under fire, which is completely unnecessary and unfortunate. And we have to protect the teacher that is supporting those students as well. So we need to be a safe, inclusive environment for all students. And so I am definitely 100% in support of GSA clubs at every school, if need be.
Oh, great. Thanks so much, Mary. Next, same question goes to you, Andrea.
Yes, I believe that they ought to be available. My understanding is that they are student-run clubs, as Mary said, with an adult teacher who's sort of a supervisor in the room. I do believe that if a parent wants to know what clubs their child is participating in school, that the parents have the right to know that, because these are minor children. But I do certainly believe that they should be available, and we should completely support children who choose to be part of that group.
Great, thank you so much. And I have this next question. It is very specific, so I'm just going to go ahead and ask it, and I'm going to try to make sure that it's free from any kind of, let's see, where did that question go? Hold on just a second. So there's something about, this one goes to Rob, actually. So there's something about in the chat here to Rob, where there's an accusation that you have anonymous accounts on Twitter. Then this person is stating that you ridicule parents, the district, say inappropriate things, but I don't have any way of verifying if this is actually true. So I guess the question would be, do you have accounts on Twitter where you ridicule parents, ridicule the district, say inappropriate things?
No, I have the right to free speech, and I say things online. But I've been attacked by a certain group of parents, the Scottsdale Can people particularly, and they have falsified things that I've said. They've put things in false light, and they've opened themselves up, to saying things about me that are just false and are lies. So I have to sit here and basically accept the fact that they think that they've tracked down some secret stash of information about me, and and want to pin things on me. Have I said things? Yeah, but I haven't attacked any parents. I haven't attacked the district. Am I upset about certain things with the district? Yes, but I say that out in open. I'll say that out in front of the Scottsdale School Board, what my issues are. But they're pinning things on me that are not true, and they're putting things that I might have said in a false light. So I dismiss it just basically because it's a bunch of anonymous trolls that are trying to pin something on me that they really can't.
Oh, and I'm just going to go ahead and go a bit unscripted here. You know, I'm a former board member myself, and let's just make this a real quick, maybe 30-second question. And because let's see, oh boy, now I'm not going to be able to remember who I started with, and I'm really sorry about that. But since Rob went last, let's go ahead and he already answered the question. Let's go to Mary. And the question is, do you think that board members should be held to a higher standard and should, you know, really monitor and rein in their social media accounts with regards to statements made about parent, staff? And again, this, you know, I don't have any idea about this fake account or anything like that, but do you think that school board members and elected officials in general should be held to a higher standard? And let's make this a quick 30-second one.
I think we live in a time where social media and our First Amendment rights are, you know, colliding. And we see that at the highest level in government. I think we're all human. And I think we all make mistakes. We all should hold ourselves to a high standard, yes. And I do in my social media, you know, all my campaign, everything, even my personal page. I've learned from experience that you're never going to win an argument online. And so, yes, respect, definitely.
Thank you, Mary. Same question to you, Andrea. Should board members be held to a higher standard and really watch what they say on social media?
Well, I guess for me, it's not a higher standard, because to me, integrity is everything. No matter who you are, what your position is, what you do, period. But as a governing board member, yes, we have a fiduciary responsibility we are representatives of SUSD to parents, teachers, students, and members of the wider community. So it's just like any board of directors. We need to be very conscious.
Thank you for that,
of what
Andrea.
We say.
Yes, thank you. All right, let's go ahead and kick it over to Sarah. And again, just 30 seconds on this one.
Anything that we hold our students to, we need to hold ourselves to as adults, as board members, as community members in SUSD. So I think that, yes, you do need to make sure that you're continuing to be a trustee of the community, especially as a board member, and representing yourself in a way that anyone can come and contact you and know that you're going to have an honest and unbiased conversation to really serve the community.
Great. And all right, so that's a question that I believe everybody has answered. I apologize. There are some questions in here from folks. There's some mention of a specific SUSD CAN organization. Unfortunately, I'm not going to have time to do it. So I am going to go ahead and allow our candidates to go ahead and close us out. Let's see. And because I'm terrible at keeping track of who started the last one, and because we have been fielding some individual questions, I'm just going to go ahead and kick it back to Mary since she started us off. So the last thing that I would like for you to do is just give us a quick 2-minute closing statement, please.
Okay. Why vote for me? I am an empathetic leader. I think my personal story, my personal background lends itself to really empathizing with my community, and the experiences I had in adversity I've overcome have put me on the path to helping others. And that is really my fundamental reason for entering this race. And that is to bring some civility, respect, and empathy to the board. Not that it's lacking necessarily now, but I think that as far as for me, that is what I would bring to the table. I have 25 years of experience of community building. I've been a mentor with New Pathways for Youth. I've very much involved in my community when I lived in Allen, Texas, and now here. I'm a cancer survivor. I am an advocate for patients and caregivers and for the American Cancer Society. I very much know my way around a boardroom. I know my way of advocacy in government relations, but also in working with others. Relationships are everything. And I am passionate about public education. I am a public school proud candidate. I am one of only 2 candidates that were named that by Save Our Schools Arizona, something that I'm very proud of. I am a lifetime member of the PTA in Texas. I have so much to give, and I am out for doing this for the kids and our community. Thank you.
Excellent. All right, now let's go ahead. Go ahead and close this out, Andrea.
Well, I again go back to academic results, and I just believe that we can and must do better for our students in Scottsdale. There are certainly success stories in Scottsdale. You know, there are students who have gone to Yale and Harvard, but when we have almost 50% of our students who are not graduating at grade level, that's a problem in my view. And as I said earlier, I have been the only candidate to really hone in on that issue. The other thing I'd like to say is that the board itself is more than a committee focused on any single issue, whether that be special ed, curriculum, etc. The board of directors is overseeing a $500 million operation. And one of the things I think we desperately need on the board are people with large scale management expertise. As I said, I believe I'm uniquely qualified for this job because I have both an accomplished business person, and I also have 30 plus years of experience in substantive educational roles. But fundamentally, I am just passionate, and I've spent the last 25 years of my time here in Scottsdale. I am just passionate about seeing every young person maximize their potential. And that's different for different children. As I said, I have a granddaughter who's autistic, and I have her brother that just graduated from Vanderbilt. So that's my goal. And I look forward to improving results for every student. And I just would like to say, remember, what the heck? Vote for Keck.
Thank you for that, Andrea. Sarah, same to you. Go ahead and close us out, please.
Thank you. Thanks again for everyone tuning in tonight, and thank you for hosting us. It would be my honor to serve our community in this role. Scottsdale schools should be just as desirable to attend as it is to live in the city of Scottsdale. As a parent with kids in SUSD for the next 13 years, I understand firsthand the value and importance of the education that we're providing our students. In addition to being a district parent, my decade experience in working for public universities, building relationships across the city of Scottsdale, and volunteering within our schools and SUSD district will lend itself to being an effective board member. And what will I accomplish? I will build the trust, a trustworthy partnership with our parents, students, staff, and community. Trust must be earned, and I will work to earn that with regular conversations and regular opportunities to allow our community to be heard and actually build those relationships regardless of school community, political affiliation, or background. I will focus on our academics and educational opportunities. They must be exceptional and prioritized in oversight, and I'll champion the outstanding programs and staff that we have and provide support in the areas that need improvement. I will be a partner to create detailed plans to address the current and projected enrollment. And after a decade of declining enrollment, we must be honest with where this is going. This affects so many things in our district. I'll work together to create a clear plan for the future use of technology in education and how to actually leverage that for our students, because that is a lot of time, energy, and money that's put into technology that we must ensure is being effective. I will also be a good steward of our public funds and be critical of where our dollars are spent. I will ensure that our programs and commitments are funded and produce measurable and desirable outcomes. The kind of measured oversight lends itself to preparing our students for their future and Solem for a brighter Scottsdale schools. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And now finally, Rob, your closing statement tonight, please.
Thank you to Secular Arizona and Jeannie for inviting all of us here, and I enjoyed this opportunity to speak. I think one of the most important things about the Scottsdale School District and being responsible for the budget is understanding that the budget for the Scottsdale School District is actually $160 million a year. There's extra money that comes from outside funding, extension bonds, ESSER funds, but those funds are going to go away. Ultimately, we only have $160 million a year to spend on it. So we need to work hard to extend funding through the overrides, any other bonds that we need to keep us at a level of funding, which is even short as it is right now. We need to fight for that, but it's also important to understand where that money comes from and where that money, when that money is going to expire. I'm Rob Valls. I'm running for Scottsdale School Board because I believe in the kids of our district, and I appreciate the time that you've given me tonight.
Thank you so much. And I went ahead, for some of you, you put your social media and websites and things like that that were specific just to the hosts and the panelists. So I went ahead and copy and pasted. If you don't see yours there up for everyone, please take a moment, make sure that it's designated for everyone so they can make their choice as to who to research further or support or contact or whatever. I'm just so grateful for all of you. I really believe in our local public schools. I truly believe that our school board is the heart of our democracy. And for those of you out there who don't know, this is an unpaid position. This is a volunteer position. So I just want to appreciate all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules. I'm sure that you could be calling people for money or trying to get signatures or all manner of other things. So it just speaks volumes to your dedication to your community and the fact that you're willing to work a good 5, 10, sometimes 15-hour week for no pay. So thank you for that. I also want to take a moment again to plug this organization. These events require, your time, talent, and treasure, just like it does for the candidates who are in front of me right now. So go to secularaz.org. You can support us in various ways. We will support you if you want to get active in your community, if you want to talk to your legislators, if you want to learn more about the ideology of the separation of church and state, the laws regarding the Constitution. We have some really great programming coming up. I know that Lindsay's putting some of it in the chat. I would like to mention that we are going to have on Thursday, June 16th, Jen Fifield. She's an award-winning investigative journalist of VoteBeat and AZ Mirror, formerly of the AZ Republic. She's going to talk elections. So that is Thursday, June 16th, next Thursday. Friday, June 17th, we will have a legislative update with Moms Demand Action. I'm really looking forward to that. On Fridays, typically at 12 noon, we have a regular legislative update. We've tried to change it up just a little bit with some webinars. We've had Senator Martin Quesada come on. We had a spokesperson talking about religious iconography recently. So those are great opportunities. This week we'll have one at noon as well. It'll probably just be me talking about the things that happened at the state legislature. So this Friday, which is June 10th at 12 o'clock, you can sign up and register at our website. We just announced today, we had a staff meeting. We will have the Washington Elementary School District Governing Board Candidate Forum happening on June 22nd at 6 o'clock. So I hope that you'll sign up and join us for that. And then finally, on June 28th, which is a Tuesday, this will also be at 12 o'clock. We've got Heather Weaver, Senior Staff Attorney from ACLU program on freedom of religion and belief, on the implications of SCOTUS case, Kennedy versus Bremerton. So if you're not familiar with that, that is one that has to do with prayer on the football field. And so we have so many great programming opportunities, so many great engagement opportunities. Again, I appreciate everyone for coming tonight. We had a great turnout. Best of luck to all 4 of you. And again, thank you so much for your commitment to our public schools, to public service, and for taking time out of your busy schedule. So with that, everybody, we're going to say goodnight. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend, even though tomorrow's only Thursday, it's like Friday. So have a great weekend, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.